Hello, welcome to Steel Division 2. We've got ourselves the Jäger Civil War over here with Game 2 between Achtung Spitfeuer and awruK, which is Kurwa backwards. So you can tell what nationality he is right away right there. And we've got the 5th Gebirgsjäger and 28 Jäger facing off against here. awruK on the blue and Achtung Spitfeuer on the red. Now, this is a fairly standard deployment, I would say. Maybe a little light on the leaders on this side, but otherwise, fairly standard Gebirgsjäger spam. Not much to expect. On the other side, we've got also coming down to the south here, which is usually a very important critical point for this game. Two Flammenwerfers, Ersatztruppen, Sturmjäger, and the Pack 38. These Sturmjäger are going to be excellent in the medium cover here. That's usually done. A big fight usually takes around here. For the center, we've got a Gebirgsführer in the Orch. A bit odd to be having it in such a fast transport, in my opinion, but this is often done. With the sniper, it's not too bad, but I've seen a lot of Führers get sniped doing this version. Coming down here, likely we've got the Gebirgsfusiliers. Yep, Gebirgsfusiliers over here, probably along with the MGs, one over here. Down the road, Pack 40 going in the center, and more Gebirgsjäger. He splits them off to try and take this section of the town, which is usually fairly easy to do, as it is a bit harder to reinforce. Up top, we've got another Gebirgsfusilier and a Gebirgsstreif, and one more Gebirgsjäger. The SPW AB-41 is coming along down here, together with a Pack 40, likely going to the hill. Yeah, Pioneers in the forest, and more Gebirgsjäger. So, like I said, Gebirgsjäger spam. For Achtung Spitfeuer's side, we've got a Jäger Scharfschütze and two MG42s, again, doing pretty much the same thing, just without the OP Gebirgsfusilier on this side. The Russian, this is a ZIS-3, I believe, just captured German. Then two more Sturmjägers and two Jägers to hold the main line. Three Jägers splitting off between here and here, two going to this little town, two up here, Jäger MG42, and another Russian gun as a defensive method. Now, let's get going as the game is well underway now. We've got an early bomber coming in. This must have been... Yeah, this was bought in during the deployment, actually, which is quite the investment, I would say, coming in at 115 points, I believe. And it pays off pretty much right away. I'm surprised he got out of the transports right there. And they don't look like they've taken too many losses here, but... if he can capitalize on this, that'll be just a great early victory for them. But SPW AB-41, as long as it doesn't get shot by this pack, can also get into this light cover and just shred anything. The engagement over here, ooh, look, this is a one-tick plane coming in for the pack here. Not quite sure if that's needed, but a good kill nonetheless. And this engagement seems to be going well. Now, it's interesting here that he's deployed this Gebirgsjäger here rather than the other MG42, because it has given him a little bit more firepower, but generally the one infantry-based MG42 isn't going to help in this engagement too much. Scout plane up early. It went from the top to the bottom. These ones are quite slow, so you don't see them too often, but recon's recon, and it's always a boon when you've got it. Another plane. This looks like it was bought in a second tick, so no reinforcements coming in for Kurwa yet here. But it looks like he's secured the town. The Gebirgsjäger probably coming out on top with the Jäger firing at medium range. Perhaps the Gebirgsfusilier also took part in that fight. Now, this would be a good engagement for the Gebirgsjäger, who got the 5 G43s. As long as you don't get within the 100 range of those SCGs, right? The Jäger do have the CQC benefit. There's two of them now. Double teaming this one. Definitely should have stayed at medium range over here. That's gonna go down. Likely we'll have to retreat this. But Gebirgsjäger moving forwards. I'm not sure if this is a great idea, but they're just sitting there and taking ground. That's open for the taking right now. Gebirgsfusilier probably going to finish off this MG42. Nice retreat earlier. And it looks like the engagement at the bottom, one flamer went down, and the Sturmjägers didn't seem to be able to capitalize on this fight. Likely the TNT going off from the Jäger down here. Another Focke-Wulf F8. But this might be the same one. When planes go unmolested by AA, they have a ridiculous reload speed, some of them. Definitely something Eugen should look at. Jäger coming into the center here. And a mortar. Meanwhile, on the other side, we've got a bunch of Ersatztruppen supported by a Stug. Gebirgsjäger making a small push forward here. Pioneer probably going to make itself in the way into this forest. Pack 40 giving supporting HE fire to the MG, but oftentimes when you leave the HE on a gun like this, yes, it gives you support fire, but this is an excellent target for any bombers. I would prioritize this as well, because I know that he's only got 3 of them in his deck, being Gebirgsjäger. It only gets 1 card to pack 40s, and, well, when you've only got 1 card to pack 40s, and Phase A unvetted means you got 3 of them. And, well, look at that. Just like on the other side, right? Pack gun, firing, definitely made itself available. Although a lot of the time these Russian howitzers are used as artillery, and they're quite good at it too. But look at that. We almost trade exactly here. This Pack 40 for the FK, which certainly is not really a trade worth having. Which is why I always prefer to disable the HE on my packs whenever possible. It does require a lot of micro to do, so it's not always an option, but better to have your pack gun killing tanks where it has a chance to come out on top, rather than just shooting at infantry, which it's not going to pay off in that case. And then it dies unnecessarily to an airplane, which just kills it right there. Gebirgsjäger coming under strafing fire and fire from the Stug, but we do have a Pack 40 here, which wouldn't need much to just creep forward and find line of sight on this Stug. Though the Stug may be a bit far too forward for that now. As long as he can keep these out of line of sights, it should be fine. As that's supposed to move forward here, and now this position's really interesting, because a lot of the time you'll see people move stuff up here, but generally it's like an AT gun and some recon. Preferably with some, like an MG maybe, or infantry, just to make sure that you don't immediately get swarmed, right? The Ersatztruppen not really going to be a threat at all, but, you know, captured 2 flags temporarily, giving him a tiny tick, though it's back to the 11-13 now. And the Gebirgsjäger coming in quite far behind. I think awruK here knows exactly the danger of this position when utilized correctly. Up here, we've got another blob of Ersatztruppen. It's like 50 men, looking at it, 44 in total, although dropping fast as the Gebirgsjäger open up. Another Stug coming in, SB-41. This has got to be fairly careful. It doesn't want to get killed by those Jägers. And this will also be an interesting engagement, because 7 MP-40s is definitely a force to be reckoned with, but it's a TNT. Nice micro there, does avoid it. The jerrycan bombs are actually don't have as much AoE as something like a Geballte Ladung from a regular Pioneer. Mortars coming in, mortars now for both sides. awruK starting to shell this location. Achtung, Spitfeuer being very passive with his mortar. Would want to see that firing. And this mortar is essentially going to allow awruK to attack this position once it's done firing. I'm not sure if I like how many orders he's queued up here. It's good for saturating an area, but it is very, like, resource intensive, right? And now that he's falling back, 2 of these barrages aren't going to hit anything necessarily. But better to have the mortar firing than not firing, right? You want it to be hitting targets. And finally, we see here what awruK had planned at the start to pan out, where the Gebirgsjäger just reached critical mass to push the 2 Jäger out of this position, probably at medium range here. Pack 40 again firing HE. I would expect a bomber to come out, but it looks like we've got a Focke-Wulf 198 just coming out to strafe that. And Well, as long as that Stug doesn't kill that AP-41, it's just gonna go to town on these Ersatztruppen. Yeah, this disgusting sometimes how effective that is at strafing, but we've got a return plane. Brought out the fighter bomber and the C-2205V, and Focke-Wulf should get away here, but it is microed straight. Nope, now it's being microed. Yep, and it should escape fine. Quite a quick fighter, that one, and that's one of its strengths. More mortar fire coming down, probably from the same order there, as he tries to retake his forward positions here. Looks like there was a tiny engagement. Sturmjäger, again, excelling at the medium range here. Or, well, finally we got the mortar firing. I would expect the Sturmjäger to win out, but they are low health. But there's not much of a numerical advantage down here. Pack firing and reeling itself, so congratulations. Unprotected AT guns going down. It's less of a problem with the Russian one because it is such a good howitzer, but also it's 50 points, I believe, 50 or 40 rather than the 60 points. Recon coming in again. And finally, some Flak 38s coming out. Very good to finally see these. You can see Achtung Spitfeuer brought them out a lot earlier, and they did help versus the fighter bomber earlier. It didn't prevent anything from dying, as we saw, but an important thing is, even if you've only got 20 mils, so if you're running Gebirgsjäger or even Jäger or anything that relies on Flak 38s, or even the 25mm ones in the Soviet divisions that you see sometimes, lighter AA is better than no AA, because what you don't want is planes to go unmolested. We see this Focke-Wulf here. It's burning up right now, right? Now, this should be evacuated just because it is so damaged, right? But we can see here, this plane will probably take a full 2 minutes longer to repair itself in the back rather than one that just has to reload. The reload timer is very low on this. Now we've got some Sturmjäger counterattack. It looks like it's being quite successful. Excelling at the so they do quite well in that regard. And as we enter Phase B here, the first tick on the stats, 12 to 12, retaking this center position. The Stug went down, I believe. Yeah, right there. Sturmgeschütz. And we've got an M42 coming down. This flag, as long as it's not reinforced with armor or something, then it likely will go to awruK over here. South position has been taken. Sturmjäger's really excelling in that medium range again, as the Gebirgsjäger fall behind. Probably supported by this mortar, but as we see, it hasn't actually used that many shells. Meanwhile, awruK's here is almost empty. It's quite light in this position right now, but yeah, from the looks of things, I suspect as we enter further into B phases, both players as Maverick will really see some spammy infantry fights here, which is exactly why I decided to feature this replay, just because of the spammy infantry fights, right? It's always a great time when you see Jäger just building up that crucial blob of infantry, but now we've got two of the best Axis blobbing divisions in the game facing off against each other. We see the first expensive call in the Nebelwerfer 42. Gebirgsjäger moving forward, taking advantage of the fact that there's nothing majorly here to stop them. Although if they do get into the range of this Jäger one by one, they will go down, particularly because one's only on 2 health. If that one goes first, it's gonna die, and then the second one's not gonna provide much of a stopgap for them. Gebirgsjäger Pioneer having to unload quick here. If this Pack 38 was perhaps up here, I would wager a lot of this transport would be sniped. Or, even better, the Stug 3 would go down. But looks like he is finally moving it forwards. It was not positioned quite correctly on the road here. I believe it was slightly in this position earlier. Rocket plane, interesting choice as we see the Nebelwerfer fire directly onto this point. But looks like it'll be a little bit overkill. I think Gebirgsjäger, as I said, did just go down. Mortar fire coming down again, keeping that supplied with the Cube Munition trucks. Cube Munition. My god. Switching between English and German is quite hard sometimes. When you've got your brain working in one and trying to speak in the other. Putting down his own troops. He's glad there's not anything else to follow up here because that would be an easy surrender right there. But you do recover as they were quite far away from that bomb and get the surrender. As it's Truppenblob still running forward and getting shot back. If you don't tell these to... If you don't give them a new order after they fall back, they do just run back forward again. Kind of funny. 30 Jägers coming in here to reinforce the center, something which I expected a little bit earlier, but, you know, better late than never. And wasn't really needed earlier with that push completely falling flat. AB-41 brought in now. With the help of this Kabugsy, gets a spot. It should clean up this town nicely. Sturmjäger out of position right now. Jäger Pioneer might get its Gebäudeladung off, but does die in the process. And looking back down, Pack 38 just finally coming into view range, and will likely be taking a shot or two at those transports. I would prefer to shoot at the Stug, but it's quite possible that he doesn't quite see that. Ooh, and unloads just as the pack fires its shot. That would have been for sure a transport snipe right there. I do believe these are far enough away that it's just the MG firing. Yeah. So this isn't actually that terrible of engagement besides the obvious cover difference. And we do see another bomber coming in here. A very effective use of these bombers, I have to say. Definitely too late of a call-in if the plane were to retreat right away, but he does seem to be turning into it, which is the correct thing to do. And as long as... Now that's a better call-in. As long as this BF-109 gets on the tail, that'll definitely go down. Oop. Off-map coming down. Beobachter Schwimmwagen pounding this area. It looks like it was a barrage, so it's coming down too slow to be a concentrated barrage. Now, barrage is generally used after you've already taken a position, just to stop reinforcements from coming in. But here, it's not too bad, just because it will pin down these troops, and if anything comes in, it will also hinder those. But what I would have liked to see is an off-map charge going down, just bleeding everything, and then this hard Jäger push coming in, surrendering, or at least doing a lot of damage as they're falling back. And then what you would do is you would barrage actually this position over here, almost with the AA, and the reinforcement road with the barrage. That way, because you definitely don't want to be pushed off the hill on this map, the enemy is going to be starting to rush units into this area. And that is the point where a barrage would be useful. HS-129, looks like a takeout that Schwewagen and the little Stug thing that was running around, the Italian support gun in any case. And Pack 38, again, not getting a kill, not being very effective, as the Stug provides the fire support. Definitely want to be a little bit further back into the forest. I would use maybe the Ersatztruppen to spot, in fact, but not a big fan of Ersatztruppen myself. They're generally just a big meat shield, but they're not that big, so they're not that meaty, so they don't even excel at that job. But in certain situations, like you've got big light pioneers in front of them, they can definitely chunk for other squads, but you do need to use them with other squads, in my opinion. Running into his own off-map here, not the best. Again, fault of the barrage, just because it does come down so long. And that fighter going down in the north, or something. Ooh, this flak placement, we can see here, they can't see anything. This is a very bad flak placement, I would say. You want them almost on the hill, so they get as much view down as possible. As the Niederwerfer comes in again, and he gets the surrender. Spitfeuer definitely, well, he seems to have a better, almost, plan, but as we can see, awruK here is definitely winning in the flags. So it can be quite decisive to decide who's better in this situation. I do believe there's still a chance, although with 2 minutes of income left on the map, well, yeah, there's definitely still a chance. But 15-9 achieved now as this entire south falls down. And if he doesn't reinforce this with like the next tick of income, basically, so at least 50-60 points, this will be a real big pain in the ass for Achtung Spitfeuer over here. As it's looking, trying to move forward, at least like chunking some damage. Jäger Pioneers not quite moving forward. And everything's just, he's got this massive block, but as long as awruK has this support effect, nothing's gonna happen to them, right? Like, you can't push into a situation where the enemy has armor and snipers and APs. It's generally not considered a great idea. LG-42 coming down as we see the planes start spamming. Certainly built up a critical mass of planes, and maybe he's hoping that that'll carry him through the next little while of the game, as these flaks, they're really not doing their job. We can see here, like, they stop firing well before when they should stop firing. They shoot at the ones that are, like, behind the lines, fine. But, yeah, being in the forest here is definitely a hindrance, as you can't see anything. Dual Sturmgeschütze here. Ooh, actually, I can't remember quite what they're fully called. Sturmhaubitze, probably. Which is big howitzer, right, on the Stug. Find a little unit here. 105 mil howitzer. 105 mil howitzers in this game are quite weird. Some of them are really weak, and others are just monumental dogs. Really being able to take things out. Multiple Sturmjäger going into this defensive positioning, bringing it back to 10-14. But there might not be much to hold out for here if this south collapse is any kind of an indication. 2 martyrs coming out, hoping to take out that Stug, likely. We'll see if he disables the APCR to get that done quickly. Nibelwerfer firing again. Ooh, this one looks like it's going to be a very deadly push here. Second to last rocket taking out a Stug. That's the power of the 300mm Nebelwerfer. Just absolutely destroys. Martyrs coming in. APCR is still turned on. And they're repositioning too, so that's not great. Oop, they do get the shooter kill though, but one does go down as the Stug got 2 shots. And that didn't need to happen, but then again, I think it's a little too late to completely retake this position. Though he does have a bunch of Sturmjäger coming in now. Not gonna help when your Gebirgsjäger are right up against the thing. What he could do right now, smoke this position, right? Smoke it, bring in these troops, and then he stands a chance at taking it back, as he's in the yellow cover at least. Engaging the Gebirgsjäger, and if you engage them one by one, will do quite well. Dual Jäger coming over here. That Stug 3 that survived, still laying down fire on the Azat. Bunch of Jäger over here that haven't been doing anything. Not that they really could. IG-18 looks to be stuck on a alignment bug here. Yeah, definitely bugged. Unfortunate. But what can you do? And we see the absolute power of these Focke-Wulf's Air Force right here. As they do go in for another shot on that Pack 40. Does get away with it though. And from the looks of it, that Pack 40 just cleaned up. Cleaned house. There's one Sturmhaubitze. That's a regular... No, that's the other Sturmhaubitze. And that's the... Okay. So that was the Sturmhaubitze. That's also a Sturmhaubitze. No, a regular Stug again. Or... No, it's got a short barrel. Okay, so both of these went down. And with that, this north is close to collapsing too. Definitely not in a good position here, as the 80-point income can really be felt by Achtung Spitfeuer. He's got control of the skies, but what use is control of the skies if your front's evaporating, right? So air spam, while it can be effective, you still need to hold the ground. Pack 40 down here to replace that Stug. Looks like it actually killed 2 transports before they got close. And then the 3rd transport went down, likely just from the small arms fire from the Jäger. Quite the conundrum. Slowly, though, awruK is kind of also losing frontline infantry, as can be expected of a Maverick versus a Maverick fight. But with the 15-9 ticking, I don't think there's much left here for Achtung Spitfeuer to look forward to. An excellent, very spammy infantry game. The off-map went down, and Achtung Spitfeuer surrenders, bringing home the win for Kurwa. I should have made a pun with that during the game. Yeah, relatively sane kill-death ratio. 2,165 and 2,500, respectively. But good game to both players, and I hope you enjoyed.